I walked into my apartment after 3 weeks in Singapore to find my wedding dress gone and my phone flooded with photos. My sister Amber wearing my gown, my fiancé Derek kissing her at the altar, my parents smiling in the front row. The ceremony had happened yesterday at the venue I booked, with the flowers I chose, the cake I ordered. When I called Amber, she laughed and said I could watch from the sidelines now. She had no idea what I had been really doing in Singapore. My hands trembled as I stood in the doorway of my apartment, the rolling suitcase still beside me, my body heavy with exhaustion from the 14-hour flight. The place felt different, emptier, like something vital had been ripped away while I was gone. I dropped my bag and walked straight to the bedroom, my heart already sinking before I even opened the closet door. It was gone, the wedding dress that had taken 8 months to make, the one I had spent $6,000 on, the ivory silk with hand-sewn lace that had made me cry when I first tried it on. The empty hanger swayed slightly, mocking me. I checked my phone, which I had barely looked at during my final meetings in Singapore. 43 missed calls, 67 text messages. Instagram was exploding with notifications. My stomach twisted as I opened the first message. It was from my cousin Rachel. "Sean, what is happening? Are you okay?" Then another from my college roommate. "I'm so confused. I thought you were getting married next month." My fingers moved faster, opening message after message, each one adding another layer of confusion and dread. Finally, I opened Instagram. The first post made my knees buckle. There was Amber, my 26-year-old sister, wearing my wedding dress, standing at an altar covered in white roses and baby's breath, the same altar setup I had chosen, at the botanical garden I had toured 5 times to get every detail perfect. And beside her, kissing her, his hand on her waist, was Derek, my fiancé of 4 years. The man I had been planning my future with, the man whose favorite coffee order I knew by heart, the man who proposed to me on a beach in Maine 2 years ago. I scrolled frantically through the photos. My mother Carol in the front row, dabbing her eyes with a tissue. My father Robert beaming proudly. Derek's parents looking emotional and happy. Aunts, uncles, friends, co-workers, everyone I knew. Everyone who should have been at my wedding in 4 weeks. The captions made it worse. "So happy to celebrate Derek and Amber's special day. What a beautiful surprise wedding. True love always finds a way." My chest felt tight. I could not breathe properly. This could not be real. This had to be some kind of horrible joke or nightmare. I sat on the edge of my bed and called Amber. She answered on the second ring, her voice bright and cheerful. "Sean, you're back. How was Singapore? What did you do?" My voice came out steady, which surprised me. "What did you do, Amber?" She laughed. Actually laughed. "Oh, you saw the photos. Isn't it wonderful? Derek and I got married yesterday. It was absolutely perfect. You married my fiancé. You wore my dress. You used my venue, my flowers, everything I planned. Well, you weren't here." Her tone shifted, becoming almost casual, like we were discussing what to have for dinner. "And Derek realized something while you were gone. He realized he was in love with me. We've actually been seeing each other for about 6 months now." 6 months. The room spun slightly. 6 months meant this started right after I took on the Singapore project at work. The project I had volunteered for specifically to earn the bonus money we needed for a down payment on a house. The project that required me to travel back and forth for planning meetings. Someone had to keep him company while you were busy being married to your job. Amber continued, her voice taking on a sharp edge. "You were always traveling, Sean. Always working late. Always choosing your career over him. Can you really blame him for falling for someone who actually had time for him?" "We were engaged," I whispered. "We were supposed to get married in 4 weeks, and now he's married to me instead. Look, all your wedding planning was already done. You picked a great venue, great florist, great caterer. It would have been a waste not to use it all. We just moved the date up and made a few adjustments. Saved us a ton of work, honestly. I felt like I was listening to a stranger. And Mom and Dad? They were okay with this. They understand that true love matters most. Derek and I explained everything to them. They saw how happy we were together. Mom even helped me alter your dress to fit me better. The seamstress did an amazing job on short notice. My mother had helped her. My mother had taken my wedding dress and helped my sister steal my entire wedding. "I need to talk to Derek," I said. "Oh, he doesn't want to talk to you right now. He said it would be too awkward. He blocked your number, actually." "Fresh start and all that." She paused, and I could hear the smile in her voice. "You can watch from the sidelines now, Sean. Derek is mine. The sooner you accept that, the easier this will be for everyone." The call ended. I sat there holding my phone, staring at the screen, trying to process what had just happened. I tried calling Derek anyway. The call went straight to a generic voicemail. Blocked. I tried my mother. No answer. My father. Same thing. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the city below. People were going about their normal lives. Walking dogs, carrying groceries, laughing with friends. The world had kept turning while mine had imploded. Derek and I had met in college, in a communications class our junior year. He had made me laugh on the first day by making a joke about the professor's ridiculous mustache. We had been friends first, then more. He proposed on a foggy morning on the beach, getting sand all over his khakis when he knelt down. We had been planning this wedding for 18 months. Every detail had been chosen together. The menu, the music, the guest list. It was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. And Amber had taken it. Just taken it. Like it was a sweater she borrowed without asking. I thought about the Singapore project. 3 weeks of intense meetings, negotiations, legal paperwork. I had been exhausted every single day, working 12-hour days, trying to close the deal that would secure my promotion and give us the financial stability to start our life together. To buy a house, maybe start a family in a few years. I had been doing it for us. For our future. And while I was gone, building that future, Derek had been falling in love with my sister. My phone buzzed. An email notification. I glanced at it absently, then stopped. It was from the law firm in Singapore. The subject line read, "Estate settlement finalized." I opened it, my hands still shaking. "Dear Miss Sean Morrison, we are pleased to confirm that the final paperwork regarding the estate of Rose Adelaide Morrison has been processed and approved. As the sole beneficiary, the total sum of $12,700,000 will be transferred to your designated accounts within 3 business days. Please confirm receipt of this email. Our condolences again on your loss, and congratulations on your inheritance." I read it twice, then 3 times. My grandmother Rose had passed away 8 months ago, just 2 weeks after I got engaged. She had been 91, sharp as ever, until her last day. I was the only grandchild who visited her every single week, sometimes twice a week, at her assisted living facility. We would play cards and she would tell me stories about growing up during the Depression, about building her fortune through careful investments and smart business decisions. Amber had visited maybe 3 times in 10 years. Our parents went monthly, dutifully, but without real connection. Grandma Rose had told me, 2 months before she died, that she had left me something special. I thought she meant her pearl necklace or maybe her recipe book. I had no idea she meant her entire estate. The lawyers in Singapore had contacted me 6 weeks ago. The estate was complicated, with assets in multiple countries, requiring my physical presence to sign paperwork and meet with international banking representatives. That was the real reason for my extended trip. Yes, there was a work project, but the bulk of my time had been spent in legal offices, processing the inheritance that nobody else in my family knew about yet. I had planned to tell them after the wedding. I had wanted to share my good fortune with the people I loved. I had already been planning how to help my parents, how to set up a trust for future nieces and nephews, how Derek and I could pay off our student loans and start fresh. But now, standing in my apartment, looking at the photos of my sister in my wedding dress, married to my fiancé, I felt something shift inside me. The tears that had been threatening to fall dried up. My hands stopped shaking. I smiled for the first time since walking through my door. Nobody knew about the money. Not Amber, not Derek, not my parents. And I was suddenly very, very glad about that. 2 days crawled by. I called in sick to work, which was unlike me, but my boss was understanding. I spent the time in my apartment, going through photos on my phone, deleting pictures of Derek and me together. There were so many. 4 years worth of memories. Vacations, holidays, lazy Sunday mornings. All of it erased, one photo at a time. On the evening of the second day, my mother finally texted me. Family dinner tomorrow night at the house, 6 o'clock. We need to talk about this situation like adults. Please come. I stared at the message for a long time before responding. I'll be there. The next evening, I drove to my childhood home in the suburbs. A modest 3-bedroom ranch with a big backyard where Amber and I used to play as kids. The siding was still the same pale yellow. The mailbox shaped like a birdhouse that my father had built 20 years ago. I used to love this house. Now it felt like enemy territory. My father opened the door. He looked uncomfortable, his eyes darting away from mine as he stepped aside to let me in. Sean, come in. The smell of pot roast filled the house, the same meal my mother made every Sunday when we were growing up. It used to mean warmth and safety. Now it made my stomach turn. Amber and Derek were already in the living room, sitting close together on the couch, their fingers intertwined. Amber wore a new diamond bracelet on her wrist that I recognized immediately. I had saved it in my online shopping wish list 3 months ago, debating whether to splurge. Apparently, Derek had bought it for her instead. She looked up when I walked in, her expression a mixture of defiance and smugness. Derek would not meet my eyes at all, staring instead at a spot on the carpet near my feet. Sean, honey, come sit down. My mother emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel. Her hair was grayer than I remembered, pulled back in the same bun she always wore. Dinner's almost ready. We gathered around the dining table in silence. My mother had set 6 places, the good china she only used for special occasions. The irony was not lost on me. My father sat at the head of the table, my mother to his right, Amber and Derek across from me, united front. I sat alone on my side, which felt appropriate. The pot roast was placed in the center of the table along with mashed potatoes, green beans, and rolls. My mother served everyone with shaking hands, the portions careful and even. We ate in awkward silence for several minutes, the only sound the clinking of silverware against plates. Finally, my father cleared his throat. Sean, we asked you here because we need to discuss this situation like adults. This situation, I repeated flatly. Is that what we're calling it? My mother jumped in, her voice pleading. Honey, these things happen. We can't always choose who we fall in love with. What's done is done, and we need to find a way to move forward as a family. Derek fell in love with Amber while he was engaged to me, while planning our wedding, while I was working to build our future. I set down my fork, my appetite completely gone. And instead of telling me, they went ahead and got married using the wedding I planned. Amber's eyes flashed. You don't understand. Derek and I have a connection you could never understand. What you two had was comfortable, but it wasn't real passion. What we have is real. Derek finally spoke, his voice defensive. You were never really present in our relationship, Sean. I needed a partner, not someone who was always on a plane or staying late at the office. I was lonely. Amber was there. I was working, I said quietly. I was working to save money for our house, for our future. You knew that. You worked 60-hour weeks. You traveled constantly. You always put your career first. Derek's voice got louder, more confident as he listed his grievances. Do you know how many dinners I ate alone? How many weekends I spent by myself because you had another meeting or conference? I needed someone who actually wanted to spend time with me, and Amber was conveniently available. I looked at my sister, for 6 months. While I was trying to build a life for us, Amber shrugged. I didn't plan for it to happen. But we started talking, spending time together. Derek would come over to vent about how you were never around. I listened. I cared. One thing led to another. My mother reached across the table, trying to take my hand. I pulled away. Sean, honey, you're still young. You're only 32. You'll find someone else. Maybe this is for the best. Maybe you and Derek weren't meant to be. We already paid for most of the wedding anyway, my father added, his tone practical. At least it didn't go to waste. The deposits were non-refundable. I stared at him in disbelief. That's what matters to you? The deposits. I'm just saying, we might as well look at the bright side. The bright side. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. My sister stole my fiancé and you want me to look at the bright side. Amber leaned forward, her hand moving to rest on her stomach in a gesture that seemed almost practiced. Plus, Sean, I am pregnant, 3 months along. So this isn't just about me and Derek anymore. There's a baby to think about now. The room went completely silent. I did the math quickly in my head. 3 months meant she got pregnant right around the time Derek and I were discussing marriage timelines and honeymoon destinations. While I was showing him photos of different ceremony locations and cake designs, my mother's face transformed instantly, all previous tension replaced by joy. Amber! A grandbaby! This is wonderful news! Why didn't you tell us sooner? My father stood up, raising his water glass. To the happy couple and the newest member of our family. They clinked glasses. They smiled. They acted like I was not sitting right there, watching my entire family celebrate my sister's pregnancy with my former fiancé. I stood up slowly, placing my napkin on the table with deliberate care. Everyone looked at me, expectant, waiting for me to cry, maybe, or storm out dramatically. Instead, I smiled. I'm happy for you all, truly. This is clearly what you wanted. I paused, watching their faces. Because while you were planning this betrayal, I was in Singapore finalizing Grandma Rose's estate. She left everything to me, $12,700,000. The money hits my account tomorrow. The color drained from my mother's face. My father's glass stopped halfway to his mouth. Amber's hand froze on her stomach. I was going to share it with the family. I continued, my voice calm and steady. I had plans to help Mom and Dad with the house repairs you've been putting off. Pay off everyone's debts. Set up college funds for future grandkids. But Grandma Rose specifically stated in her will that the money should go to me alone, to use as I saw fit. And now I understand why. She knew who actually cared about family, and who only cared about what they could take from it. Sean. Wait, my mother started, standing up so fast her chair scraped loudly against the floor. Enjoy your pot roast. I picked up my purse and walked toward the door. And congratulations on the pregnancy, Amber. I hope Derek is ready for fatherhood. I made it to my car before I heard the screaming start inside the house. Amber's voice, high and furious, carrying through the closed windows. I could not make out the words, but I did not need to. I knew exactly what she was saying. I drove away with my windows down, letting the cool evening air wash over my face, and felt truly calm for the first time in days. My phone started ringing at 7 the next morning. Amber, I let it go to voicemail. It rang again immediately. Amber, then again, and again. 17 times before I finally answered, just to make it stop. What, Amber? We need to talk. Her voice was completely different from the smug, confident tone at dinner. Now she sounded desperate, almost frantic. I think there's been a misunderstanding about the inheritance. No misunderstanding. Grandma left everything to me. But that's not fair. She was grandmother to both of us. The money should be split, should it? I was making coffee in my kitchen, holding the phone between my ear and shoulder. Tell me, Amber, when did you last visit Grandma Rose before she died? Ill wait. Silence on the other end. That's what I thought. I visited her twice a week for 3 years. I took her to doctor appointments. I helped her sort through her medications. I played cards with her and listened to her stories. You came to see her maybe 3 times in a decade. That doesn't mean you deserve all the money. Grandma Rose thought it did. Take it up with her lawyer if you disagree. I poured my coffee, savoring the aroma. Was there anything else? Look, Sean, I know you're upset about Derek, and I get it, but we're still sisters. Family helps family. And with the baby coming, Derek and I are really struggling financially. He works in sales, and commission has been slow. I'm only teaching yoga part-time. We could really use some help. The audacity was breathtaking. You should have thought about that before you stole my wedding. I didn't steal anything. Derek fell in love with me. That's not my fault. Goodbye, Amber. I hung up. The phone rang again. This time it was my mother. I let that one go to voicemail too. Then my father called. Voicemail. Then a string of texts from all of them, each more desperate than the last. From Amber. You're being selfish and cruel. From my mother. Your grandmother would want you to help your family. She was generous and kind. You should honor her memory by being the same. From my father, family values mean something, Sean. Don't let money turn you into someone you're not. I deleted the texts and blocked all 3 numbers. Then I made myself breakfast, scrambled eggs and toast, and sat in my sunny kitchen eating in peace. Later that morning, I had a meeting with my financial advisor, Patricia, a sharp woman in her 50s who had been recommended by Grandma Rose's lawyers. We met at her office downtown, all glass windows and modern furniture. $12,700,000 is a life-changing amount of money, Patricia said, pulling up spreadsheets on her laptop. We need to be smart about this. Investments, real estate, retirement accounts. You're 32, which means this money, if managed correctly, can set you up for life. We spent 3 hours discussing options. Patricia recommended a diverse investment portfolio, some real estate purchases, and setting aside a solid emergency fund. By the time I left her office, I had a clear plan for my financial future. My next stop was a real estate office. I had been browsing listings online for days, and there was one condo that kept catching my eye. A 2-bedroom downtown with floor-to-ceiling windows, hardwood floors, and a balcony overlooking the river. It was modern and beautiful and nothing like the traditional house Derek and I had been planning to buy in the suburbs. The realtor, a friendly woman named Diane, showed me through the space. I fell in love immediately. "I'll take it," I said. "Full asking price, cash offer." Diane blinked. "Don't you want to think about it?" "No. I want this one." We started the paperwork that afternoon. Over the next 2 weeks, I threw myself into moving forward. I booked a solo trip to Italy, 2 weeks of wandering through Tuscany and Rome with no itinerary and no obligations. I blocked my entire family on social media. I started therapy with Dr. Martinez, a calm, kind counselor who specialized in family trauma and betrayal. I joined a women's hiking group and went on my first trail walk, where I met 3 women who knew nothing about my drama and treated me like a normal person. At work, my boss Helen called me into her office. I thought I might be in trouble for taking so many personal days, but instead, she smiled and told me I was being promoted to senior project manager with a significant raise. "You earned this, Sean. The Singapore project was a massive success, and the client specifically requested you for future work. You have an incredible career ahead of you." I went home that night to my old apartment, which I was packing up to move into my new condo, and felt something I had not felt in weeks: hope. Then someone knocked on my door. I looked through the peephole and my stomach dropped. Derek. I almost didn't answer. But curiosity won over common sense. I opened the door but didn't invite him in. He looked terrible. His hair was unwashed, dark circles under his eyes, his clothes rumpled. "Sean, thank God, can we talk?" "I don't think that's a good idea. Please, just 5 minutes." His voice cracked. I made a huge mistake. Against my better judgment, I let him into the building lobby. We stood by the mailboxes and I crossed my arms. "You have 5 minutes. I'm so sorry. For everything. For Amber. For the wedding. For all of it." The words came out in a rush. I got caught up in something I didn't understand. "Amber came on to me one night when you were traveling. I was lonely and stupid and I let it happen. Then it kept happening, and I didn't know how to stop it. You could have told me." "I know. I should have. But Amber said you'd never forgive me, that it'd lose you forever if you found out. She said if I just went with it, everyone would be happier in the long run." He ran his hands through his hair. "Living with her is nothing like I thought it would be. She's not the person she pretended to be." "What do you mean?" "She's demanding. Controlling. She spends money constantly. Money we don't have. She bought a whole new wardrobe last week, maxed out 2 credit cards. She screams at me if I question anything. She's always on her phone, texting someone. And when I ask who, she tells me it's none of my business." His eyes were red. "And your parents keep calling us, asking for money. They say the family is struggling and we should help out since we had a free wedding." I felt zero sympathy. "That sounds like your problem. I want you back, Sean. I love you. I made a horrible mistake, but I love you. Can we try again? Can we work through this? You married my sister." "I know, but we can get it annulled. It's only been a few weeks. We can say it was done under duress or something. My buddy from college is a lawyer. He said there are ways. I stared at him. This man I had planned to spend my life with, and felt nothing but disgust. No. Please, Sean. I'll do anything. You married her. She's carrying your child. That's your life now. You chose it. His face changed then, desperation shifting to something uglier. Anger. This is about the money, isn't it? You're mad that we didn't know about the inheritance. If we had known, things would have been different. Get out. Amber lied to me, Sean. About everything. She's not who I thought she was. I said get out. I moved toward the door to let him out of the building. Wait. He grabbed my arm. Not hard, but enough to stop me. There's something you need to know. The pregnancy. Amber lied about that too. I went very still. What? She's not pregnant? She was never pregnant. He pulled out his phone with shaking hands, opened his messages, and showed me the screen. I found these texts on her phone 2 days ago. She bought fake positive pregnancy tests online. She's been lying to everyone, including me. I read the messages. They were between Amber and someone named Justin. The texts detailed the entire plan: fake a pregnancy, trap Derek in marriage, gain access to family money through emotional manipulation. My hands started shaking as I scrolled through weeks of messages. Who is Justin? I asked. I have no idea. But they've been talking for months. Maybe longer. Derek's voice was broken. She used both of us, Sean. She trapped me with a fake baby. Please, help me. Help me get an annulment. Help me fix this. I looked at him for a long moment. The man I had loved. The man who had betrayed me with my own sister. The man who was now begging for my help. No, I said finally. You made your choice. Deal with the consequences. But she lied. So did you. For 6 months, I stepped back. Don't contact me again. I walked back to my apartment and closed the door, leaving him standing in the lobby. Through the door, I heard him start to cry. But all I could think about was Amber, my sister, who was apparently far more calculating and cruel than I had ever imagined, who had orchestrated this entire thing as some kind of twisted revenge plot, and who had no idea I was about to discover exactly how deep her deception went. I could not sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those text messages on Derek's phone. Amber's words to this mysterious Justin. Plotting and scheming like I was nothing more than a chess piece to be moved around their game board. By 3 a.m, I had made a decision. The next day I called a private investigator. The firm had been recommended by Patricia, my financial advisor, for background checks on potential business partners. I met with Frank, a retired police detective in his 60s with gray hair and kind eyes, at a coffee shop near my office. I need to know everything about my sister, I told him, sliding a folder across the table with Amber's basic information. Who she's been seeing, where she's been going, what she's been doing, especially anything involving someone named Justin. Frank nodded, taking notes. How far back? 2 years, maybe 3. This will take about a week, maybe 2. It'll be thorough. Money is not an issue. I want the truth. He called me 6 days later. I have your report. Can you come to my office? I left work early and drove to his office in a small building on the east side of town. Frank had a corner office with filing cabinets and a desk covered in manila folders. He gestured for me to sit. Your sister is quite a piece of work, he said, opening the thickest folder I had ever seen. Let's start with Justin. He slid several photos across the desk. A man in his early 30s, tall, dark hair, wearing business casual clothes. Justin Harper. Has a pharmaceutical sales rep, travels frequently for work. He and your sister have been in a relationship for 2 years and 4 months. 2 years. I felt sick. They meet regularly when he's in town, usually at hotels. Sometimes at his apartment 3 hours north in Millbrook. I have photos, credit card receipts, text message records obtained legally through phone records he carelessly left accessible. Frank pulled out more documents. The relationship appears to be serious on both sides. Hess called her his girlfriend to his coworkers. She's introduced him to several of her friends under a fake name. A fake name? She told her friends his name is Marcus and that he works in real estate, probably to keep your family from finding out about him. But why would she pursue Derek if she was already with Justin? Frank's expression darkened. That's where it gets interesting. He pulled out printed copies of text messages, hundreds of them. About 8 months ago, your sister learned about your grandmother's failing health. She also learned through family conversations that you were the primary caretaker. She got worried. He pointed to a specific message from Amber to Justin. Grandma is going to leave everything to Sean. I know it. Sean was always her favorite. Meanwhile, I get nothing. Another message, dated 2 weeks later. Sean got promoted again. Perfect job, perfect fiancé, perfect life. And now Shell get millions too. It's not fair. Justin's response. So take something back. I read through the messages, my hands getting colder with each one. The plan unfolded across weeks of texts. Amber decided to seduce Derek as revenge, to take away something I valued. Justin encouraged it, apparently finding the drama entertaining. They discussed timing, strategy, how to make Derek fall for her. There's more, Frank said quietly. The motivation goes back further than you might think. He showed me employment records. 5 years ago, Amber had applied for a marketing position at a mid-sized firm downtown. I had also applied for the same position, though I had not known Amber was interested in it. I got the job. Amber did not. She had quit her current position in anticipation of getting hired, and when she didn't, she struggled financially for months. She blamed you, Frank said. Even though you didn't know she had applied. She saw it as you stealing her opportunity. More documents. Performance reviews from Amber's various jobs over the years, all mediocre. My performance reviews from the same time periods, all excellent. Family photos where Amber stood slightly apart, her smile not quite reaching her eyes while everyone praised my achievements. She's been jealous of you for years, Frank continued. The Derek situation was a culmination of that jealousy. When she found out about the inheritance after your grandmother's death, she intensified the plan. She wanted to hurt you and position herself to claim part of the money through family pressure. The fake pregnancy, I said. Yes. She ordered fake positive pregnancy tests from a website that sells them as novelty items. 5 of them. She's been showing them strategically to different people to make the lie seem more legitimate. He showed me the order confirmation. Does Derek know about Justin? No. Justin knows about Derek, but Derek has no idea Justin exists. Your sister has been maintaining both relationships simultaneously. Frank pulled out more photos. Amber and Justin at a restaurant just 3 days ago, kissing across the table. The timestamp showed it was the same night she and Derek had gone to his parents' house for dinner. She had apparently left early, claiming she felt sick, and driven straight to meet Justin instead. There's one more thing you should know. Frank's voice got even more serious. Your sister and Derek are in financial trouble. Real trouble. She has been opening credit cards in his name without his knowledge. So far, she has accumulated about $15,000 in debt across 3 cards. She's been buying clothes, furniture, electronics. Derek's credit score has dropped 90 points in 3 weeks. I sat back in my chair, overwhelmed by the sheer scope of my sister's deception. This was not just about Derek or the wedding. This was years of resentment and jealousy, manifesting in increasingly destructive ways. What do you want to do with this information? Frank asked. I need to think. I took the folder, heavy with evidence of my sister's betrayal. Thank you for being thorough. One piece of advice? People like your sister don't stop on their own. This will escalate unless you put a firm stop to it. I drove home with the folder on my passenger seat, feeling its weight even though it could not have been more than 2 pounds of paper. When I got to my apartment, I found a certified letter waiting for me from an attorney's office I did not recognize. Inside was a lawsuit. Amber was suing me for her rightful share of Grandma Rose's inheritance. The complaint claimed that Grandma Rose was mentally incompetent when she wrote her will, that I had manipulated her in her final years, and that the money should be divided equally among all grandchildren. I called my attorney, Sandra, who I had hired when the inheritance first came through. She was a fierce litigator with a reputation for winning difficult cases. This lawsuit is garbage. Sandra said after reviewing the documents I scanned and emailed to her. Your grandmother's medical records show she was completely competent. She had yearly cognitive assessments that all came back normal. The will was written with multiple witnesses and a psychiatric evaluation to confirm capacity. This won't hold up in court. Can we countersue? Absolutely. For harassment, legal fees, emotional distress, we can make this very expensive for her. Sandra paused. Or we can try a different approach. What if you confront her directly with the evidence you have? Sometimes facing the truth head-on stops people faster than legal proceedings. I thought about Frank's advice, about the escalation pattern I could see forming in those text messages, about Amber's rage when I walked out of the family dinner. Set up a meeting, I said. Neutral location. I want to face her. 2 days later, I sat in a coffee shop downtown, a folder of evidence on the seat beside me. Amber walked in wearing designer sunglasses and carrying a new purse I recognized from a luxury brand website. It probably cost $2,000, money she and Derek supposedly did not have. She slid into the chair across from me with false sweetness. I'm so glad you agreed to talk, Sean. We really need to settle this inheritance issue. Family shouldn't fight like this. I said nothing, just slid the folder across the table. What's this? She asked, but her voice had already changed. Wary. Open it. She did. I watched her face as she flipped through the pages. Photos of her with Justin. Text messages detailing the revenge plot. Credit card statements showing the debt she had hidden from Derek. Fake pregnancy test receipts. Employment history showing our competing job applications. Everything. The blood drained from her face. Her hands started shaking. I know everything, I said quietly. Justin, the fake pregnancy, the debt you've been hiding, all of it. Where did you get this? She whispered. That doesn't matter. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to drop the lawsuit immediately. You're going to tell Derek the truth about the pregnancy. You're going to stay away from me completely. And if you do all of that, I won't send copies of this folder to Mom and Dad, to all our relatives, to your employer, and to everyone who attended your fake wedding. You wouldn't try me. You have 48 hours. For a long moment, we stared at each other across the table. Then Amber's expression twisted into something ugly. Not sadness, not shame. Pure rage. She stood up so fast her chair scraped loudly against the floor. Her hand knocked over her coffee cup, sending brown liquid spreading across the table. Several other customers turned to look. You have always been a cold, selfish witch, she hissed, her voice low and venomous. Everything handed to you. Perfect grades, perfect jobs, perfect life. You think you're so much better than everyone else. Well, guess what? You're not. You're just lucky. And luck runs out. She grabbed the folder, tearing some of the pages in her anger. You want to ruin my life? Fine. But I will make you regret this. You have no idea what I'm capable of. Then she stormed out, leaving me sitting alone with spilled coffee dripping onto the floor. The barista came over with a towel, looking concerned. Are you okay? Yes, I said, though my heart was racing. I'm fine. But as I drove home, I realized Frank had been right. This was not over. It was just beginning. Amber did not drop the lawsuit. Instead, she escalated. 2 days after our coffee shop confrontation, she went to our parents with a twisted version of events. I know because my mother called me from a number I had not blocked yet, her voice thick with tears. How could you threaten your sister like that? She's pregnant and vulnerable, and you're treating her like an enemy. Mom, she's not pregnant. She lied. She showed me the pregnancy tests. Multiple tests. Why would she lie about something like that? Because she's been lying about everything. Did she tell you about Justin? Who? Of course she hadn't. Mom. Amber has been in a relationship with another man for over 2 years. She used Derek for revenge because she was jealous of me. The pregnancy is fake. All of it is fake. I don't believe you. You're just saying this because you're angry about the wedding. Sean, this isn't like you. You're being cruel. I have proof. Photos, text messages, everything. I don't want to see your manufactured evidence. You hired some investigator to make your sister look bad so you can keep all of Grandma's money to yourself. My mother's voice rose to a shout. Your father and I raised you better than this. The call ended. I sat staring at my phone, feeling the last threads of my connection to my parents fray and snap. My father sent a long text that night, the gist of which was that I had become greedy and heartless, that family should come before money, that I was destroying our family with my selfishness. He ended with, your grandmother would be ashamed of who you've become. That one hurt, because Grandma Rose had been proud of me. She had told me so many times in her final months. You have integrity, Sean. You work hard for what you want. You don't expect handouts or take shortcuts. I'm so proud of you. But my parents could not see that. They only saw Amber's version of events, where I was the villain. Meanwhile, strange things started happening. I went to my car one morning to find all 4 tires slashed, the rubber in shreds. The parking garage security footage was unclear, the figure wearing a hoodie and moving too quickly to identify. Someone created a fake social media profile using my photos and began posting horrible things. Racist comments, cruel messages about former colleagues, made up stories about me cheating at work. I reported the profile and got it taken down, but not before several of my actual friends saw it and questioned me about it. Anonymous messages started appearing in my email. My social media even slipped under my apartment door. You will pay for what you've done. Karma is coming. Watch your back. I reported everything to the police. They filed reports but told me that without clear evidence of who was responsible, there was little they could do. Change your passwords, be aware of your surroundings, install security cameras, the officer advised. I did all of that. I had cameras installed at my apartment door and in the parking garage. I changed every password. I started varying my route to work. 3 nights later, the cameras caught something. At 2 a.m, a figure approached my parking space and spray-painted "thief" in large red letters across the concrete. The video was grainy from the low light, but the person was clearly female with long hair pulled back in a ponytail. Amber's build. Amber's height. I sent the footage to Frank, the private investigator. He enhanced it as much as possible and confirmed what I already knew. It was Amber. I took the video to Sandra, my attorney. She reviewed it carefully. This is criminal vandalism and harassment. We can file a restraining order and press charges. I have a different idea, I said. Over the next week, I planned carefully. I had been backed into a corner, painted as the villain, and I was done defending myself quietly. It was time for the truth to come out completely, in a way nobody could deny or twist. I called a family meeting. I told my parents I wanted to resolve everything peacefully before it destroyed our family forever. I said I was willing to sit down with everyone, including Amber and Derek, and talk through everything like adults. To my surprise, everyone agreed. Even Amber. I rented a private room at a restaurant downtown, neutral territory. I arrived early and set up a laptop and small projector, positioning them so they faced the table. My parents arrived first, my mother looking hopeful, my father stern and judgmental. Then Amber and Derek, Amber's hand resting protectively on her still flat stomach. Derek looked miserable. My Aunt Linda and Uncle George came too, having been filled in on some version of events. My cousin Rachel came as well, giving me a small, supportive smile as she sat closer to my end of the table. When everyone was seated, I stood up. Thank you all for coming. I know the past few months have been difficult for everyone. There's been a lot of confusion, a lot of hurt feelings, and a lot of lies. I looked around the table. I called you all here because I want the truth to come out. All of it. No more, he said, she said. Just facts. This is just another way for you to attack me. Amber interrupted, her voice shaking with what I'm sure she thought was convincing vulnerability. Let her speak, Aunt Linda said sharply. I turned on the projector. The first image appeared on the wall. A timeline of events, clearly laid out with dates and locations. Amber and I both applied for a marketing position 5 years ago. I got the job. Amber did not. She blamed me, even though I didn't know she had applied. I showed the employment records. My parents exchanged glances. 2 years ago, Amber began a relationship with a man named Justin Harper. They've been together ever since. Photos appeared of Amber and Justin together, dated and time-stamped. At restaurants, hotels, his apartment, kissing, holding hands, looking very much like a couple. Amber's face went pale. "Those are fake," she said weakly. "They're verified by location data from your own phone records." I replied calmly. 8 months ago, when Grandma Rose became very ill, Amber became worried about the inheritance. She knew I was Grandma's primary caretaker and assumed I would inherit everything. I showed the text messages between Amber and Justin, projected large on the wall where everyone could read them. "Grandma is going to leave everything to Sean. Perfect job, perfect fiancé, perfect life. So take something back." My mother's hand moved to her mouth. My father leaned forward, reading intently. Amber decided to seduce my fiancé as revenge. She planned it carefully. With Justin's encouragement, she pursued Derek deliberately while I was traveling for work. More text messages appeared, these ones between Amber and Justin discussing strategy, timing, how to make Derek fall for her. Derek dropped his head into his hands. When Derek proposed marriage, Amber saw an opportunity. She claimed to be pregnant to trap him and to pressure the family into forcing me to share the inheritance. I showed the receipts for fake pregnancy tests purchased online, 5 of them, ordered to Amber's address. "She's not pregnant. She was never pregnant. She lied to all of you." Carol started crying. Not quiet tears, but deep, wrenching sobs. Robert stared at Amber with an expression I could not quite read. Horror, maybe. Or disappointment so deep it had no name. Amber also took out credit cards in Derek's name without his permission, accumulating $15,000 in debt. She's been harassing me with threatening messages, vandalizing my property, and creating fake social media accounts to damage my reputation. I showed the security footage of Amber spray painting my parking space. The anonymous messages tracked back to accounts linked to her devices. The timeline of harassment matched to her movements. The room was completely silent except for my mother's crying. I hired a private investigator to find out the truth because I was being painted as the villain in a story where I was actually the victim. Everything I've shown you tonight has been verified by legal professionals and can be presented in court if necessary. Amber stood up suddenly, her chair scraping back. "This is insane. You're making all of this up. You're trying to turn everyone against me because you can't handle the fact that Derek chose me over you." "Sit down, Amber," my father said quietly. His voice had no warmth in it. "Dad, she's lying. Those photos are doctored. I don't know any Justin. I am pregnant. Tell them, Derek." Everyone looked at Derek. He slowly raised his head, his eyes red-rimmed. "You're not pregnant, are you, Amber?" She froze. "I found the fake tests in your drawer last week. I saw the text messages with Justin. I know everything." His voice was flat, emotionless. "I've been waiting to see if you'd tell the truth. But you just keep lying. Derek, please. I want an annulment. My lawyer already filed the paperwork yesterday morning." Amber looked around the table wildly, searching for an ally. She found none. Even my mother had stopped crying and was staring at her with an expression of betrayal and shock. That was when the door to the private room opened. Justin walked in. I had asked Frank to track him down and extend an invitation to this meeting. I had not been sure he would come, but I had appealed to his self-preservation. "Amber's schemes are falling apart." I had told him through Frank, "If you don't get ahead of this, you'll be implicated in fraud, harassment, and who knows what else. Come tell your side, save yourself, and walk away." Apparently, that argument had worked. Justin stood in the doorway, looking uncomfortable but determined. He was handsome in a generic way, wearing a button-down shirt and khakis. He did not look like a villain. He looked like someone who had gotten in over his head and was now desperately trying to get out. "Who are you?" my father demanded. "My name is Justin Harper. I've been in a relationship with Amber for 2 years and 3 months. His voice was clear and matter-of-fact. "Everything Sean just showed you is true. Amber and I have been together this whole time." She told me about her plan to seduce Derek as revenge against Sean. I thought she was joking at first, but she was serious. I told her it was stupid and would blow up in her face. He looked at Amber. "I was right." "You bastard," Amber hissed. "You were in on it. You helped me plan everything. I made suggestions as a joke. You're the one who actually went through with it." Justin's expression hardened. "And when it started to fall apart, you kept doubling down instead of coming clean. You faked a pregnancy, For God's sake. You committed fraud, identity theft, and vandalism. I'm not going down with you. Amber lunged at him. Actually lunged, her hands reaching for his face like claws. Derek and my father both jumped up to grab her arms, holding her back as she screamed. You're all against me. You've always been against me. Sean gets everything and I get nothing. It's not fair. She doesn't deserve it. Amber, stop, my mother said, her voice breaking. Just stop. But Amber could not stop. Years of jealousy and resentment poured out of her in a torrent of accusations and rage. She screamed about how I had always been the favorite, always been praised, always been successful, while she struggled. She blamed our parents for comparing us, blamed me for existing, blamed Grandma Rose for leaving her out of the will, blamed Derek for being weak, blamed Justin for abandoning her. Finally, Derek let go of her arm and walked toward the door. He did not look at Amber. He did not look at anyone. He just walked out. Justin followed quickly, clearly wanting to distance himself from the wreckage. Amber collapsed into a chair, still crying and screaming, but with less energy now, more broken than angry. I looked at my parents. My mother was crying again, but quietly now. My father looked like he had aged 10 years in the past hour. I'm sorry you had to see all of this, I said quietly. But I needed you to know the truth, not the version Amber told you, the actual truth. Aunt Linda stood and came around the table. She hugged me tightly. I'm so sorry we didn't believe you sooner, sweetheart. Uncle George nodded. Your grandmother knew what she was doing. She left her money to the right person. Cousin Rachel squeezed my hand. I'm proud of you. I gathered my laptop and projector, unplugging cables with hands that were finally steady. My mother tried to approach me, but I held up a hand. Not now, Mom. I need time. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. I left the restaurant and sat in my car for a long time, breathing deeply, feeling the weight of months of tension finally begin to lift. It was over. The truth was out, and I could finally start to heal. The week after the family meeting felt surreal, like I was watching my life from outside my body. I went to work, came home, ate dinner, slept. But everything felt different, lighter. My phone rang constantly, but this time the calls were supportive. Aunt Linda called to apologize again and to tell me she had always known something was off with Amber's story. Uncle George sent a long text about family loyalty and how proud he was that I had stood up for myself. Cousin Rachel invited me to lunch and spent 2 hours listening to me process everything. She said, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. The truth needed to come out. Derek filed for annulment based on fraud. His attorney called me, asking if I would provide evidence for the case. I agreed, not to help Derek necessarily, but to ensure that the truth was legally documented and Amber could not twist the narrative later. The annulment was granted within 30 days. Derek moved back to his parents' house in another state. Before he left, he sent me one final text message. I'm sorry for everything. You deserved so much better than how I treated you. I hope you find real happiness. You always were the better person. I did not respond. There was nothing left to say to him. Amber dropped the inheritance lawsuit. Sandra, my attorney, sent her a strongly worded letter threatening to countersue for harassment, defamation, vandalism, and legal fees totaling over $100,000. The lawsuit was withdrawn within 48 hours. According to Frank's final report, which I had asked him to complete before closing the case, Amber moved in with Justin, but that relationship was already showing cracks. Neighbors reported loud arguments. Justin's coworkers mentioned he seemed stressed and distracted. I did not take any satisfaction in their problems. I just wanted them both far away from my life. For a week after the restaurant meeting, my parents remained silent. I knew they were processing everything, trying to reconcile the daughter they thought they knew with the person who had been exposed that night. Finally, my mother called. Can we talk? Please. Her voice was small, uncertain. Your father and I would like to see you. Just to talk. No pressure, no agenda. Just talk. I agreed to meet them at a park near my childhood home, a neutral space with walking trails and benches overlooking a pond. When I arrived, Both of them were already there, sitting close together on a bench. They looked older somehow, worn down by everything that had happened. My mother stood when she saw me, her hands twisting together nervously. "Thank you for coming." I sat on the bench across from them, maintaining distance. My father spoke first. "We owe you an apology that words cannot possibly express. We failed you, Sean. Completely and utterly failed you." My mother started crying immediately, but she kept talking through the tears. "We believed Amber because it was easier than confronting who she really is. We've known for years that she struggles, that she's jealous of you, that she makes poor choices. But we always made excuses for her. We told ourselves she just needed more support, more understanding. We enabled her instead of holding her accountable. Your grandmother saw it clearly." My father continued. "Rose knew what she was doing when she left everything to you. You were the one who cared for her, who spent time with her, who showed up consistently. You've always been responsible and hardworking and good. Amber has been jealous of you since you were children, and we enabled it by excusing her behavior and expecting you to be the bigger person. You always told me to share with Amber, to let her have things even when I earned them, to be understanding of her feelings," I said quietly. "You made me feel guilty for succeeding." My mother nodded miserably. "We did. We thought we were helping her build confidence, but we were actually teaching her that she didn't have to work for things, that she could just take what she wanted, and we taught you that your achievements didn't matter as much as her feelings." She sobbed. "I'm so sorry, honey. I'm so sorry." We sat in silence for a while, watching ducks glide across the pond. A family with young children fed bread to the birds nearby, their laughter carrying across the water. "I don't know if we can rebuild what was broken," I said finally, "but I'm willing to try." Slowly, my mother's face crumpled with relief. "That's more than we deserve. Thank you. I need boundaries," I continued. "I need you to respect that Amber and I may never have a relationship again. I need you to stop pressuring me to forgive her or include her in my life, and I need you to understand that the inheritance is mine to do with as I choose. Grandma Rose made that decision, and I'm honoring it." "We understand," my father said. "Whatever you need, whatever timeline you need. We're just grateful you're giving us a chance." Over the following months, I focused on building my new life. The condo purchase went through, and I spent weekends decorating it exactly how I wanted. Modern furniture, bright colors, large plants in every room. It felt like mine in a way the apartment I had shared space with Derek never did. I took the trip to Italy that I had booked, spending 2 weeks wandering through Tuscany and Rome. I ate pasta and gelato, visited ancient ruins, sat in cafes watching people go by. In a vineyard outside Florence, I stood watching the sunset and felt something inside me unknot and release. Therapy with Dr. Martinez helped tremendously. We worked through my trust issues, my tendency to overwork to prove my worth, my difficulty setting boundaries with family. "You've been conditioned to believe that being successful means you're being selfish," she told me during one session. "But success isn't selfish. It's the result of hard work and dedication. You're allowed to be proud of yourself." At work, I led my team to complete our major project 3 weeks ahead of schedule. My boss Helen recommended me for a National Industry Award, which I was shocked to actually win. At the ceremony, I gave a speech about perseverance and trusting yourself even when others doubt you. The applause was thunderous. I started dating again, casually and with no pressure. I went out with a kind architect named Bennett, who made me laugh over coffee and did not push when I said I was not ready for anything serious. We went to museums, tried new restaurants, talked about books and travel. He knew my whole story and never made me feel broken or damaged because of it. "You're one of the strongest people I've ever met," he said one evening as we walked along the river. "What you went through would have destroyed a lot of people, but you came through it with grace." "I don't always feel graceful," I admitted. "That's because you're human. But grace isn't about being perfect. It's about how you handle imperfection." My parents and I settled into a new normal. We met for coffee once a month, then twice a month. We did not talk about Amber at first. That wound was still too fresh for all of us. Instead, we talked about Grandma Rose, sharing memories and stories. We talked about their friends, my work, neutral topics that slowly rebuilt trust. Eventually, they started acknowledging their mistakes more openly. My father told me about his own childhood, how his parents had played favorites with his siblings, and how damaging that had been. "I swore I wouldn't do the same thing," he said. "But I did it anyway, just in a different way." My mother shared how she had wanted both her daughters to be close friends, and when that did not happen naturally, she forced it by making me accommodate Amber's feelings. I thought I was keeping the peace. I was actually creating resentment. These conversations were hard but necessary. Slowly, carefully, we were building something new. Not the same relationship we had before, but something more honest. I also used part of my inheritance to start a scholarship fund in Grandma Rose's name. The Rose Morrison Scholarship for Women in Business and STEM. It provided full tuition plus living expenses for young women from working-class backgrounds who showed academic promise and dedication. The application process was rigorous. I wanted to support students who were truly committed, who reminded me of myself at that age. Hungry to learn, willing to work hard, determined to build better lives. The first scholarship ceremony was held at a hotel conference room downtown. 3 young women received awards. A 19-year-old studying mechanical engineering, a 21-year-old pursuing an MBA, and a 23-year-old in a computer science program. They each gave short speeches, tearful and grateful, talking about how this money would change their lives. My parents attended the ceremony. Afterward, my mother hugged me tightly. "Your grandmother would be so proud of you." "I'm proud of you too." "Thank you, Mom. This is her real legacy," my father said, gesturing to the scholarship recipients chatting excitedly with their families. "Not just the money, but what you're doing with it. Building something that will help people for generations." I felt warm all over, validated in a way I had not felt in a long time. 6 months after the restaurant confrontation, an envelope appeared in my mailbox at the condo. No return address, but I recognized Amber's handwriting immediately. I almost threw it away, but something made me open it. Inside was a single handwritten page. "Sean, you won. You got everything. The money, the family's respect, your perfect life. I hope you're happy. I know I don't deserve it, but if you ever find it in your heart to forgive me, I will spend the rest of my life trying to become someone worthy of being your sister again. I'm in therapy now. I'm working a regular job at a call center. I'm trying to figure out who I am am not consumed by jealousy and bitterness. I'm not asking you to respond. I just wanted you to know that I'm trying. Amber." I sat on my couch holding the letter for a long time, feeling complicated emotions swirl through me. Anger, yes, still present under the surface. But also sadness. Sadness for the relationship we might have had if jealousy had not poisoned it. Sadness for the sister I remembered from childhood, before everything got twisted. I was not ready to forgive her. Maybe I never would be. That had to be okay. But for the first time, I felt something other than anger toward Amber. I felt a distant kind of hope that she might actually change, might actually become someone better. I did not respond to the letter. Instead, I wrote a single sentence on a piece of paper and placed it in my desk drawer next to her letter. "I release you, and I release myself." It was not for her. It was for me. Permission to stop carrying the weight of her choices, to stop letting her actions define my emotional state. I closed the drawer and went to meet Bennett for dinner. We were celebrating his winning a major architectural contract, and I was genuinely happy for him. Our relationship had deepened over the months into something steady and real. He knew all my scars and loved me not despite them, but because of who I had become through surviving them. As I drove through the city toward the restaurant, I thought about how much had changed in less than a year. I had lost a fiancé, a wedding, and the family I thought I had, but I had gained clarity, strength, independence, and self-respect. I had learned to set boundaries, to value myself, to recognize my own worth. The inheritance had been life-changing, yes, but not because of the money itself, because it had forced everyone to reveal their true priorities and values. It had shown me who really cared about me versus who only cared about what I could provide. I thought about Grandma Rose, who had been wise enough to see all of this coming. She had protected me the only way she could, by ensuring I had the resources to stand on my own, to survive the betrayal she probably suspected was coming. "Thank you, Grandma," I whispered as I pulled into the parking lot, "for seeing me clearly and believing I was strong enough to handle the truth." 1 year after the stolen wedding, I stood in my condo looking out at the city skyline as the sun set, painting everything in shades of orange and gold. The view never got old. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed a city that felt full of possibility instead of pain. My condo was exactly what I had wanted. Clean lines, comfortable furniture in shades of gray and blue, bookshelves full of novels I actually had time to read now. Plants thrived in every corner because I had learned their care routines and stuck to them. The space felt peaceful, settled, mine. I thought about everything that had happened, how far I had come from that day. I walked into my apartment to discover my wedding had been stolen. The pain was still there, tucked into a quiet corner of my heart, but it no longer controlled me. It no longer defined who I was. The inheritance had changed everything, but not in the way anyone expected. Yes, the money had given me financial security and independence, but more importantly, it had given me clarity. It had shown me who truly valued me as a person versus who only saw me as a resource to be exploited. Grandma Rose had known exactly what she was doing. She had seen the dynamics in our family with clear eyes. My consistent dedication versus Amber's sporadic attention. My genuine care versus everyone else's dutiful obligation. She had protected me the only way she could, by ensuring I would have the means to stand on my own when the truth came out. And the truth had come out spectacularly. Derek had not been my person. If he had been, he would not have been so easily swayed by attention and flattery. Real love does not crumble under the weight of busy work schedules and travel. Real love communicates, works through difficulties, stays committed even when things get hard. My family's love had been conditional, at least where Amber was concerned. They had been willing to believe the worst of me and make excuses for her because facing her true nature was too uncomfortable. That was a painful lesson, but a necessary one. Amber's jealousy had never really been about me. It had been about her own insecurity, her own sense of inadequacy, her inability to be happy for others when she was unhappy with herself. I could not fix that for her. Nobody could, except Amber herself. I had learned to set boundaries, to protect my peace, to choose myself without guilt. For years, I had been conditioned to believe that putting myself first was selfish, that success made me arrogant, that I should dim my own light to make others more comfortable. But that was wrong, utterly wrong. I had learned that forgiveness is not something owed, but something given when and if the wounded party is ready. Maybe someday I would forgive Amber. Maybe not. Either way, I was at peace with my decision because it was mine to make. I had learned that family is not just blood. Family is the people who show up consistently, who support without conditions, who love you for who you are, rather than what you can provide. My circle now included Aunt Linda and Uncle George, Cousin Rachel, my mentor Helen, my therapist Dr. Martinez, the women from my hiking group, and Bennett. These people were my real family, chosen and cherished. The scholarship fund had grown beyond my initial expectations. Word had spread about the Rose Morrison Scholarship, and other donors had contributed. We were now funding 8 students per year, with plans to expand to 12 next year. The thank you letters I received from recipients filled the entire drawer in my desk, and I reread them whenever I needed to remember why the inheritance mattered. One letter from a young woman studying aerospace engineering had made me cry. She wrote, "I grew up thinking college was impossible for people like me. Your scholarship didn't just give me money. It gave me permission to dream bigger than I ever thought possible. Thank you for believing in me before I believed in myself." That was Grandma Rose's true legacy. Not the money itself, but what it could become, in the hands of someone who understood its value beyond the dollar amount. My relationship with Bennett had deepened into something beautiful and steady. We had been together for 8 months now, taking things slowly but intentionally. He had met my parents, who loved him. He made me laugh, challenged me intellectually, supported my ambitions without feeling threatened by them. Last week, we had taken a weekend trip to the coast. Walking on the beach at sunset, he had said, "I love how you know exactly who you are. So many people spend their whole lives trying to figure that out. But you just live it. I didn't always know. I had admitted. This past year taught me. Then I'm grateful for this past year, even though I know it was painful. Because it brought you to exactly where you're supposed to be. My parents and I had settled into a comfortable rhythm. We had dinner together every few weeks, usually at their house or a neutral restaurant. The conversations were real now. No longer surface-level pleasantries hiding resentment and unspoken expectations. My father had started therapy himself, working through his own childhood trauma and how it affected his parenting. I'm learning that I can acknowledge my mistakes without being destroyed by them, he told me during one dinner. I failed you in many ways, Sean. But I'm trying to do better now. My mother had joined a support group for parents of adult children. She talked about learning to let her daughters be their own people, to stop trying to manage everyone's emotions, to accept that not all relationships can be saved and that is okay. I spent so much energy trying to force you and Amber to be close, she said one afternoon over coffee. I thought that's what good mothers did. Keep the family together no matter what. But real love doesn't force. It allows. It respects boundaries. It accepts reality. These conversations meant more to me than any apology could have. They showed me that my parents were actually changing, actually learning, actually growing. That was rare and precious. As for Amber, I had heard through family channels that she was still in therapy, still working her job at the call center, still trying to rebuild a life outside of bitterness and jealousy. She and Justin had broken up after 3 months of toxic fighting. She was living alone in a small apartment, by all accounts keeping her head down and avoiding drama. Whether she would actually change long-term, I did not know. People could change, but they had to want it desperately enough to do the hard, uncomfortable work. I hoped for her sake that she did. Not because I wanted a relationship with her, but because holding on to hate and jealousy was like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. I had realized something profound over this past year. The best revenge is not destruction, but indifference. I did not need Amber to suffer. I did not need her to grovel or beg for forgiveness. I just needed her to be irrelevant to my happiness. And she was. My phone buzzed, pulling me out of my thoughts. A text from Bennett. Ready for dinner? Am downstairs? I smiled and texted back. Be right down. Before I left, I walked to my desk and opened the drawer where I kept Amber's letter. I had read it probably 50 times over the past 6 months, each time feeling different things: anger, sadness, pity, indifference, hope. Today, I felt mostly peace. I took out the piece of paper where I had written my own message. I release you, and I release myself. I read it one more time, then placed both papers back in the drawer and closed it gently. I grabbed my jacket and headed for the door, but paused at the mirror in my entryway. The woman looking back at me was different from the one who had walked into her apartment a year ago to discover her life had been stolen. This woman was stronger, wiser, more herself than she had ever been. I thought about Grandma Rose, about something she used to tell me when I was young and struggling with Amber's constant comparisons and competitions. She would cup my face in her soft, wrinkled hands and say, "Sean, baby, people will show you who they are. Believe them the first time, but never let their darkness dim your light. You shine, sweetheart. You keep shining no matter what." Grandma Rose had been right about everything. My light had been dimmed for a while, shadowed by betrayal and pain and the shock of discovering that people I loved were capable of such cruelty. But it was burning bright again now. Brighter than before, actually, because I had learned to tend it carefully, to protect it fiercely, to value it properly. I walked out of my condo and took the elevator down to the lobby where Bennett was waiting. He smiled when he saw me, the kind of smile that reached his eyes, that held nothing back. "Ready?" he asked, offering his arm. "Ready," I said. We walked out into the cool evening air. The city was alive with lights and sounds and possibilities. Somewhere out there, people were falling in love. People were starting businesses. People were overcoming obstacles. People were choosing themselves, setting boundaries, building lives they actually wanted instead of lives they thought they should want. I was one of those people now. As we crossed the street toward the restaurant, I realized something simple but profound. I was happy. Genuinely, deeply, authentically happy. Not because everything was perfect, but because I had learned that happiness is not about what happens to you, it is about who you become in response to it. Betrayal had shown me the truth. It had hurt more than I thought possible. There were days when I had not been sure I would survive the pain, when getting out of bed felt like an impossible task, when trust felt like a concept that would never apply to my life again. But I had survived. More than survived. I had grown, transformed, become someone I was genuinely proud to be. If I could go back and tell myself anything on that day I came home to nothing, it would be this. Betrayal will show you the truth. It will hurt more than you can imagine. It will feel like the end of everything, but on the other side of that pain is freedom. Freedom to choose who deserves a place in your life. Freedom to build something real from the ashes of what was fake. Freedom to know yourself completely and value yourself properly. My sister stole my wedding. She stole my dress, my fiancé, my carefully planned celebration. She tried to steal my inheritance, my reputation, my peace of mind. But she gave me something far more valuable in return, though she never meant to. She gave me myself back. She stripped away all the illusions, all the false security, all the relationships built on obligation rather than genuine care. She forced me to stand alone and discover that I was strong enough to do so. And that is something no one can ever take away. I walked into the restaurant with Bennett, into warm lighting and the smell of good food and the sound of laughter. The hostess seated us at a table by the window, and I looked out at the city I loved, in the life I had built, with a man who valued me, surrounded by opportunities I had earned. I was exactly where I was supposed to be. And I was finally, truly free. If you've ever experienced betrayal from someone you trusted, or felt like you had to dim your own light to make others comfortable, I want to hear from you. What helped you heal? How did you learn to trust again? What would you tell someone going through something similar right now? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories about resilience, courage, and finding yourself again after betrayal. Share this with someone who needs to remember their own strength today. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it reminds you that your worth is not determined by how others treat you, but by how you treat yourself. You deserve people in your life who celebrate your success, not resent it. You deserve relationships built on genuine care, not convenience or obligation, and you deserve to shine as brightly as you possibly can, without apology or guilt. Keep shining. The world needs your light,